I grew up feeling invisible in a small town, but one summer, I decided to take a chance on myself, and what happened next changed my life forever. I never thought my life would turn out this way. Growing up in a small town, opportunities were scarce, and dreams often felt like fragile illusions that shattered before you could even grasp them. My family was loving but struggling. My parents worked multiple jobs just to keep the lights on and food on the table. I always admired their resilience, but I couldn't help feeling trapped in a cycle that seemed impossible to break. I watched older friends leave town, chasing education, work, or adventure, while I stayed behind, feeling like I was fading into the background of my own life. School was never easy for me. I was a quiet kid, often overlooked by teachers and peers alike. I struggled with confidence, convinced that no matter how hard I tried, I would never be capable of anything extraordinary. There were moments of kindness, small victories, but they felt fleeting, drowned out by the weight of doubt that seemed to follow me everywhere. Everything changed the summer I turned 18. My parents sat me down one evening, tired but smiling, and told me they couldn't afford to send me to college. I felt a mixture of disappointment and fear, realizing that the future I had imagined for myself might never happen. But instead of sinking into despair, I felt a spark of determination I hadn't known existed. I made a decision: I would create my own opportunities, even if it meant starting from nothing. I began working odd jobs, delivering newspapers, waiting tables, and doing anything I could to save money. Every paycheck felt like a small victory, a step toward independence. But the work was exhausting, and sometimes I felt invisible, just another face in the crowd, another worker no one noticed. Despite this, I refused to give up. I spent nights reading books about entrepreneurship, self-improvement, and people who had risen from nothing to achieve greatness. Their stories inspired me, but more than that, they gave me hope that I could write my own story too. One evening, while working a late shift at the diner, I noticed a flyer on the bulletin board: local business competition, pitch your idea, win funding. I stared at it for a long time, imagining what it could mean if I had the courage to enter. My mind raced with ideas, but fear crept in. What if I failed? What if everyone laughed at me? The doubts were loud, but something inside me whispered, "You can do this." That night, I went home and started drafting a plan, scribbling ideas on scraps of paper, staying up until the early hours of the morning. For weeks, I worked tirelessly, refining my concept, practicing my pitch, and researching every detail. It was exhausting, but I felt alive in a way I never had before. My friends noticed my energy and curiosity, though most didn't understand the intensity of what I was trying to accomplish. My parents supported me quietly, proud but concerned, reminding me to pace myself. I ignored their caution. This was my chance to prove that I could step beyond the limits of my upbringing. The day of the competition arrived, and I felt a mixture of excitement and terror. I was one of the youngest participants, and my lack of experience showed, but I gave my pitch with everything I had. I spoke about my vision, the problem I wanted to solve, and how I believed it could make a difference. As I finished, I held my breath, waiting for judgment. The room was silent for a moment, and then applause filled the air. I didn't win first place, but I won something more important: recognition and a mentor willing to guide me forward. That mentor became a lifeline. With guidance, I learned how to structure my business, manage finances, and navigate challenges I had never encountered before. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, failed attempts, and moments when I questioned whether I was capable of continuing. But I kept going. Every small success built my confidence, and every failure taught me resilience. Slowly, I began to see the life I had once dreamed of taking shape before my eyes. After that pivotal summer, I returned home with a newfound determination. For the first time in my life, I began to believe that my circumstances did not define me. I realized that the feelings of invisibility, the constant comparison to others, and the whispered doubts I carried from childhood were not truths. They were merely perceptions that I had accepted without question. I knew that to truly change my life, I had to confront these fears head-on. The first challenge was simple yet daunting: I had to finish my education. School had always been a battlefield for me, a place where I felt inadequate and overlooked. But now, armed with a sense of purpose, I approached my studies with a vigor I had never experienced before. I set strict schedules, sought help when necessary, and slowly began to see results. Teachers who had once ignored me began to notice the effort I was putting in. Grades improved, and with each success, my confidence grew. Beyond academics, I sought out new experiences that would challenge me emotionally and mentally. I joined local community groups, volunteered for projects, and even took up public speaking, a skill I had long feared. Every small victory, every new skill acquired, became a building block in reconstructing the person I wanted to be. I started documenting my journey, writing down reflections, challenges, and lessons learned. This journal became a mirror to my transformation, allowing me to track growth and maintain motivation during tough days. Relationships also became a focus. For years, I had kept people at a distance, afraid of rejection or judgment. But I slowly opened up to friends and family, sharing my dreams and fears honestly. Some people reacted with skepticism, while others offered unwavering support. It was in learning to trust and rely on these connections that I discovered the importance of community and personal growth. Support, encouragement, and even gentle criticism became essential fuel for my journey. Financial independence was the next mountain to climb. Coming from a modest background, money had always been a source of stress and limitation. I took on part-time jobs, saved diligently, and began exploring entrepreneurial ideas. Initially, progress was slow and frustrating. Mistakes were made, some investments failed, and setbacks threatened to derail my plans. Yet, each obstacle taught me resilience and problem-solving. I realized that success was rarely linear, it was iterative, built through persistence, adaptation, and learning from failures. By the end of that year, I had accomplished more than I had imagined possible. I completed my studies with honors, secured a stable job that aligned with my interests, and had laid the groundwork for a small business venture. Most importantly, I had transformed my mindset. The timid, insecure individual I once was had evolved into someone capable of facing uncertainty with courage and optimism. I had discovered a sense of self-worth that was independent of external validation. Reflecting back, the lessons of that second phase of my journey were clear. Personal growth requires courage to face fears, persistence in the face of setbacks, and a willingness to embrace change. It is not about sudden leaps, but consistent steps forward, no matter how small. I learned that transformation is a process, not a destination. Each day, each challenge, each interaction offered an opportunity to redefine oneself. As the second year of my transformation began, I felt ready to take on more ambitious goals. I wanted to explore new horizons, both professionally and personally. Travel became a priority not as a luxury, but as a way to expose myself to diverse perspectives, to learn, and to grow. Every journey I took, every person I met, contributed layers to my evolving identity. I learned empathy, adaptability, and the richness of human experience beyond the confines of my small town. By embracing discomfort and seeking growth relentlessly, I discovered a profound truth: the limitations we perceive are often self-imposed. Society, family, past experiences, they may shape us, but they do not dictate our future unless we allow them to. By choosing to act, to take responsibility for our paths, and to invest in ourselves, transformation becomes possible for anyone willing to commit to it. This second stage of my journey was not just about achieving external milestones, it was about building internal resilience, finding purpose, and learning to navigate life with intention. And as I stood on the threshold of the next chapter, I felt a sense of readiness and anticipation I had never known before. The journey was far from over, but I had learned to embrace it fully, knowing that every step, every struggle, and every triumph was shaping the life I had always dreamed of living. Entering the third year of my journey, I began to understand that true growth was not measured solely by achievements or milestones, it was also measured by the depth of self-awareness and emotional intelligence I had cultivated. I had started to notice patterns in my thoughts, reactions, and behaviors that had previously gone unnoticed. This awareness became a tool, allowing me to navigate challenges with clarity rather than reacting impulsively. One of the most significant realizations was the importance of mindset. I had previously believed that success was about talent or luck, but now I understood that persistence, adaptability, and the willingness to learn from failure were far more critical. Every setback I faced was reframed as a lesson rather than a defeat. When my first entrepreneurial project faced unexpected losses, I no longer felt despair. I analyzed what went wrong, adjusted my approach, and tried again. Each iteration strengthened my resilience and honed my problem-solving skills. During this period, I also focused on expanding my skill set. I enrolled in online courses, attended workshops, and sought mentorship from professionals I admired. These efforts were not just about career advancement, they were about self-empowerment. I wanted to be capable of handling opportunities and challenges alike, and I realized that knowledge and preparation were my strongest allies. The hours spent learning, practicing, and reflecting were investments in a future I was actively shaping. Relationships continued to play a crucial role. I had learned the hard way that not all connections were beneficial. Some relationships were draining, filled with negativity or envy. Recognizing this, I began to set boundaries, letting go of toxic influences while nurturing those who genuinely supported my growth. This process was difficult, sometimes painful, but necessary. Surrounding myself with people who encouraged curiosity, perseverance, and positivity created an environment in which I could thrive. As my confidence grew, so did my willingness to take risks. I applied for positions that once seemed beyond my reach, pitched my business ideas to potential investors, and even considered relocating to pursue new opportunities. Fear of failure no longer paralyzed me. Instead, it became a signal that I was stepping outside my comfort zone, exactly where growth happens. Each bold move, regardless of immediate outcome, strengthened my belief in my own capabilities. Financially, I started to gain momentum. Savings accumulated steadily, and my small ventures began to show promise. More importantly, I learned the discipline of financial planning and strategic investment. I understood that stability was not just about earning money, it was about managing it wisely, planning for the future, and using resources to create opportunities rather than living paycheck to paycheck. Equally transformative was my emotional journey. I had once struggled with self-doubt and a persistent fear of inadequacy. Now, I faced these internal struggles openly. Journaling became a daily ritual, meditation helped me center my thoughts, and reflection allowed me to confront insecurities without judgment. Over time, I developed a sense of inner calm and confidence that was not dependent on external validation. During this phase, I also sought to give back. Volunteering and mentoring became meaningful pursuits, allowing me to share the lessons I had learned while inspiring others to pursue their own growth. Seeing the impact of my guidance on someone else's life reinforced the idea that success is not only personal but communal. Helping others navigate challenges reminded me of the interconnectedness of human experience and the power of shared resilience. Travel and exposure to new cultures continued to shape me. Experiencing different ways of life, meeting people with diverse perspectives, and confronting unfamiliar situations expanded my empathy and adaptability. I learned to appreciate the subtle complexities of human behavior and the universality of struggles and triumphs. Each journey added depth to my understanding of the world and, in turn, myself. By the end of this third year, I felt a profound shift. I was no longer the person defined by past fears and limitations. I had cultivated resilience, self-awareness, and a proactive mindset. Challenges were no longer obstacles but opportunities to refine skills and test determination. The journey had transformed not just what I could achieve, but who I had become: a confident, capable, and intentional individual ready to embrace life fully. Reflecting on this stage, I realized that transformation is iterative. It is not about reaching a final destination but about continually evolving. Every experience, success, and failure contributed to a deeper understanding of oneself. By embracing discomfort, seeking knowledge, and maintaining a persistent focus on growth, I discovered that life's possibilities are limited only by the boundaries we impose on ourselves. As I looked forward to the next chapter, I carried with me not only accomplishments but an unshakable belief in my ability to navigate uncertainty. I had learned that perseverance, adaptability, and self-awareness were my greatest tools. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I felt equipped to face them, knowing that the journey of self-discovery and improvement is lifelong and infinitely rewarding. By the fourth year, I had begun to experience the tangible results of my sustained efforts. The cumulative impact of persistence, learning, and self-awareness was becoming evident in both my personal and professional life. Opportunities that had once seemed distant were now within reach, and the confidence I had cultivated allowed me to recognize them when they appeared. I started to see the direct connection between preparation and opportunity, understanding that luck often favors those who are ready. One of the most significant developments during this period was the deepening of my professional ventures. The business ideas I had nurtured for years began to gain traction. Small successes in earlier projects gave way to larger initiatives, and the lessons from past failures became invaluable. I approached each new endeavor not just with enthusiasm but with a strategic mindset, carefully analyzing risks, market trends, and potential outcomes. The combination of persistence and foresight allowed me to make decisions that balanced ambition with practicality. Financial independence, once a distant goal, was becoming a reality. I learned to navigate investments, budgeting, and resource allocation with a sense of discipline and responsibility. Each financial milestone reinforced the principle that growth is not just about earning more but about managing wisely and planning for the long term. The stability I achieved created a foundation from which I could take calculated risks without fear of jeopardizing my future. Equally transformative was the evolution of my personal life. I had learned to cultivate meaningful relationships and to let go of those that hindered growth. Family, friends, and mentors who supported my journey became pillars of encouragement and guidance. These connections were no longer taken for granted. I invested time and energy into nurturing them, recognizing that the strength of my network directly influenced my ability to thrive. During this period, self-awareness became my most valuable asset. I had developed a keen sense of my strengths, weaknesses, and triggers. Challenges that once provoked anxiety or self-doubt were now approached analytically. When confronted with difficult decisions, I paused to reflect on long-term consequences rather than reacting impulsively. This shift in perspective not only reduced stress but also improved the quality of my decision-making, allowing me to navigate complex situations with clarity and confidence. One of the most pivotal moments came when I faced a major setback in my career. A significant project failed despite months of preparation, leaving me questioning my choices and abilities. In the past, this would have been a crushing blow, but now I approached it as an invaluable learning experience. I analyzed what went wrong, sought feedback, and implemented changes. This process not only salvaged aspects of the project but also strengthened my resilience and problem-solving skills. I realized that setbacks are not indicative of failure but are instead essential components of growth. During this fourth year, I also began to explore my passions beyond work. Creative pursuits, physical challenges, and intellectual curiosities became integrated into my life. I took up writing, painting, and fitness regimens that pushed my limits. These activities provided balance, fostered discipline, and reinforced the principle that personal growth is multidimensional. By cultivating diverse skills and interests, I developed a sense of fulfillment that was independent of external validation. Travel continued to shape my worldview. Experiencing new cultures, languages, and environments expanded my empathy and adaptability. I observed how people navigate challenges, celebrate successes, and support one another. These experiences reinforced the universality of struggle and triumph, reminding me that personal growth is both an individual and communal journey. Each encounter and observation added layers to my understanding of human nature and my place within it. A profound shift occurred in my perspective on failure and success. I no longer viewed success as a destination but as a continuous process of improvement and learning. Likewise, failure became a tool for growth rather than a measure of worth. This reframing allowed me to take bold actions without fear, pursue ambitious goals with confidence, and approach life with curiosity and courage. By the end of the 4th year, I felt a sense of alignment. My personal values, professional ambitions, and emotional resilience were converging, creating a sense of purpose and direction. The challenges I had faced, the risks I had taken, and the lessons I had internalized had transformed me into a more capable, confident, and intentional individual. I recognized that the journey of self-improvement is ongoing, but I now possessed the tools, mindset, and resilience to navigate it successfully. Reflecting on this stage, I realized that true growth requires patience, consistency, and self-compassion. It is not about achieving perfection but about embracing progress, learning from setbacks, and remaining committed to personal evolution. The 4th year was a testament to the power of sustained effort, strategic thinking, and emotional intelligence, a period that solidified my belief in my own potential and prepared me to embrace even greater challenges and opportunities ahead. By the 5th year, the cumulative effects of my efforts were no longer just noticeable, they were undeniable. What had once been a series of small, painstaking steps had coalesced into a momentum that carried me forward in every aspect of life. This year marked a turning point, where the lessons of the past became living proof of the power of perseverance, discipline, and self-awareness. I began to see that growth is not linear, but rather a series of expansions and contractions that ultimately build strength, clarity, and resilience. Professionally, I had reached a level where I could influence outcomes rather than simply react to them. Opportunities to lead, innovate, and mentor others began to emerge naturally. I found myself in a position to guide others through challenges I had once faced, offering insights, strategies, and encouragement. This sense of responsibility was both humbling and empowering. Mentorship became a reciprocal process. While I provided guidance, I also learned from the experiences, perspectives, and ideas of those I supported. Their successes were a reflection of collective effort and an affirmation of the principles I had internalized. Financially, stability had transformed into freedom. I was no longer consumed by the pressures of survival or the uncertainty of risk. Instead, I had the resources and knowledge to make strategic investments, pursue creative ventures, and allocate time to passions that had been deferred in earlier years. Financial security provided more than comfort, it created the space to explore opportunities without fear, to fail without devastation, and to experiment with new ideas that could lead to meaningful impact. The personal realm of my life had also deepened in richness and complexity. Relationships that had been tested by distance, disagreement, or misunderstanding now flourished through empathy, communication, and shared growth. Friendships were no longer casual connections but deliberate bonds of mutual respect and support. Family ties strengthened as I reconciled past misunderstandings and embraced the imperfections of those I loved. Emotional intelligence, cultivated through years of introspection and experience, allowed me to navigate conflict with compassion and patience, fostering connections that were both authentic and enduring. One of the most transformative aspects of this year was my relationship with failure and risk. Whereas in the past I had approached new ventures cautiously, fearing loss or judgment, I now embraced them as essential to growth. Failure was no longer a threat but a teacher, a necessary companion on the path to mastery and fulfillment. Each risk, whether in business, personal development, or creative expression, became an opportunity to test my limits, expand my understanding, and refine my strategies. The mindset shift was profound. Success was not merely about achieving outcomes but about learning, adapting, and persevering with integrity and resilience. Creativity had become a vital component of my life. I devoted time to writing, painting, and other forms of self-expression, finding that these activities sharpened my problem-solving skills, enhanced emotional clarity, and provided a refuge from the pressures of daily life. I discovered that the act of creating is inherently transformative. It cultivates patience, encourages reflection, and allows one to communicate insights that cannot be expressed through conventional means. Through creativity, I explored aspects of myself previously unexamined, finding depth, nuance, and inspiration in unexpected places. Travel and exposure to new environments continued to broaden my perspective. Each journey offered lessons in adaptability, observation, and humility. Experiencing different cultures, meeting people with diverse backgrounds, and witnessing alternative ways of life reinforced my understanding of human complexity and resilience. I learned to appreciate both the universal struggles that connect us all and the unique circumstances that shape individual experiences. Travel became a form of education, offering insights into the world and into my own capacities, limitations, and potential. This year also emphasized the importance of health, physical, mental, and emotional. I established routines that supported stamina, strength, and well-being. I recognized that growth is not solely intellectual or professional but holistic, encompassing body, mind, and spirit. Regular exercise, mindful nutrition, meditation, and reflection became integral to my daily life. These practices provided energy, focus, and clarity, reinforcing the principle that sustainable success requires balance, care, and consistent attention to all aspects of self. By the 5th year, I had cultivated a profound sense of purpose. Life no longer felt like a series of reactive decisions but a conscious, deliberate journey. Every choice, every effort, and every risk was aligned with my values and long-term vision. This alignment fostered clarity and confidence, reducing anxiety and uncertainty. I could now approach challenges with a sense of calm determination, knowing that even setbacks were part of a broader, meaningful trajectory. Reflecting on this period, I understood that the journey of self-improvement is continuous and multifaceted. Success is not merely the attainment of goals but the ongoing commitment to learning, growth, and integrity. The 5th year was a testament to resilience, strategy, and the power of intentional effort. It marked a stage where progress became visible, confidence became earned, and the tools for navigating future challenges were firmly in place. Ultimately, this year reinforced a simple yet profound truth that growth is the result of patience, persistence, and purposeful action. It is shaped by the willingness to learn from mistakes, embrace uncertainty, and remain steadfast in the pursuit of meaningful objectives. By embracing these principles, I had not only transformed my circumstances but also evolved into a more capable, resilient, and fulfilled individual ready to continue the journey with courage, curiosity, and unwavering determination.